Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a challenge a lot of organizations are facing.
Mm,
Just how do you wrangle all the complexities of modern work?
right. And we're going to explore that by digging into Adobe Workfront, which is a platform, designed for exactly this.
And we're using some interesting source material today. It's based on practice questions for the Workfront Core Developer Expert Certification.
So think of it like we're looking at the blueprint, understanding the core thinking behind how this platform is put together.
Exactly. So our mission isn't just like listing features. We want to pull out the real insights, how Workfront actually helps teams manage things, sure, but also how it helps them align, optimize,
Yeah.
really hit their strategic goal.
Yeah, get beyond the surface level.
Okay, so let's jump in. Here's a big question to start. Ever wonder how these really large organizations, multifaceted ones, keep all their different projects pointing in the same strategic direction?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And our first source tackles this head on. It talks about portfolios and programs in Workfront.
Portfolios and programs.
Okay. And the key benefit highlighted is grouping related projects together for strategic alignment.
Strategic alignment. Sounds good, but what does that actually, look like? How does grouping projects really help day to day?
Well, what's really interesting is how this simple idea, just grouping things, gives you this powerful lens for making decisions.
Okay.
So by seeing related projects together in a portfolio or, a program, leadership gets a much clearer view of how resources are spread across those big strategic priorities.
Ah, I see. So you can spot overlaps or maybe gaps.
Exactly. Or see if your key initiatives are actually getting the resources they need. It helps make sure that the investments, the time, the effort are really backing up the main business goals. You're making more informed choices.
Right. Instead of just hoping things line up, you can actually see it.
Precisely. Imagine looking at a dashboard and knowing instantly if your big strategic pushes are properly staffed.
That makes a ton of sense. So if you're out there trying to show the value your team brings or just making sure you're hitting company targets, understanding this kind of strategic grouping seems, well, essential.
It really shifts project management from just, reacting to tasks towards being more proactive, more strategic.
Okay, cool. Let's shift gears a bit then. The second question seems to focus more on the individual user experience. It mentions layout templates.
Yeah. Layout templates, think personalization, customizing the interface.
Personalization how? What can you actually change with these templates?
Well, think about it. A sales team needs different tools front and center compared to, say, a creative team or the IT folks.
Sure. Different daily tasks.
So layout templates let admins tailor what each group sees when they log in. You can change the navigation, set different default landing pages, even hide tools they just don't use.
So no more one-size-fits-all interface. You create a workspace that's actually relevant to someone's job.
Exactly. And the impact. It boosts efficiency, less noise, less clutter.
Reduces that cognitive load, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Users find what they need faster, focus on their main tasks, less wading through menus they never touch. It streamlines their day.
But think about that for your own work. How much cleaner would your software be if it only showed what you actually needed? That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, something critical for any platform. Access control. Who sees what, who does what.
And this is where Workfront allows for some really fine-grained control. The cluster looks at custom access levels.
Custom levels.
And it correctly points out that these control two key things. Object visibility, so who can see an item, and edit rights, who can actually change it.
Ah, so it's a double lock. See versus do. Can you give an example?
Sure. Take a marketing campaign plan. You might want the whole marketing team to see the plan, right? So everyone knows the strategy, the timing.
Okay, makes sense. Transparency.
But you probably only want the project manager, maybe key task owners, to actually edit it. You don't want accidental changes messing things up.
Right. Prevents chaos.
That dual control gives you both transparency and integrity.
The practice question also flags some potential confusion points, like does contribute access mean you can delete stuff?
Yeah, that's a common misunderstanding. Usually contribute means you can add things, update tasks, comment, participate. But it generally doesn't include deletion rights. That's typically a higher level.
Okay. And what about who sets these levels? Is it always the top system admin?
That's the other point. While sysadmins often have the ultimate control, Workfront is flexible. You can often delegate managing access levels down to, say, project managers or team leads for their specific projects or teams.
So it can be distributed. More efficient in big companies, I bet.
Definitely. It really pushes you to think about your own systems. How granular can you get with permissions right now?
Good question. Okay, let's move to the starting line, getting requests into the system. How does Workfront handle that initial intake?
Oh yeah, this is a classic pain point, isn't it? The flood of emails, random messages, hallway requests.
Total chaos sometimes.
Workfront tackles this with two main things working together. Request queues, which have routing rules, and custom forms that you attach to queue topic.
Okay, request queues with routing and custom forms. How do they combine to, bring order?
So think of the queues as dedicated channels, like one for Marketing Hub, one for IT support, maybe one for creative work.
Got it. Different buckets.
And the routing rules. They act like an automated traffic cop. Based on what the requester chooses the topic, maybe the request automatically goes to the right team or person within that queue.
Okay, that directs the traffic. What about the forms?
The custom forms make sure you get the info you need up front. Instead of a vague email saying, need help, the form forces them to provide key details, deadlines, descriptions, attachments, whatever you configure.
So you collect all the essential info right at the start, no more back and forth just to figure out what they even want.
Exactly. It cuts down delays, speeds up processing, and means the team has what they need to actually start working.
That sounds like a huge time saver. It makes you ask,
Mm-hmm.
how much time does your team waste just chasing basic info for new requests?
A very real question for a lot of listeners, I'm sure.
Okay, sticking with those custom forms for a moment. The next source dives into something specific.
Hmm.
Why might a calculated field sometimes show up blank? That sounds frustrating.
It definitely can be. But the reason, as the source explains, is pretty straightforward, actually. Calculated fields rely on other fields in the for to do their math.
Right, they need input.
So if those input fields, the ones the calculation depends on, are empty, well, the calculation can't run, there's nothing to calculate with, so the field stays blank.
Simple logic, but probably easy to overlook when you're building a complex form.
Very easy. So the practical takeaway is make sure the fields that feed your calculation actually get filled out.
How do you ensure that? Make them required.
That's one way. Make the source fields mandatory. Or use clever form logic so they only appear when needed. Clear instructions for users help too.
So next time you see a blank calculated field, check its sources first. That's good troubleshooting advice. Makes you think, doesn't it? Any automated calculations in your workflows that sometimes just fail? This might be why.
Could be. It's often the simple things. Okay, our final area for this deep dive moves into resource management. Specifically, understanding who's available, who's swamped across all your projects.
The big picture view of capacity, always a challenge. What does our source say is the best way in Workfront to get this view?
It points directly to the Resource Planner tool. That's the key feature here.
Through a resource planner.
It lets you generate utilization reports. These give you that bird's eye view of availability. You can slice it by role, by team, even down to the individual.
Yeah.
And importantly, it looks across all their assigned projects.
So instead of digging through project schedules one by one,
Exactly. You get one central place to see who's overbooked, who might have bandwidth, where you might run into bottlenecks down the line.
that sounds incredibly useful for staffing, scheduling, even prioritizing projects if resources are tight.
Absolutely. It provides the data for informed decisions, optimizing how you use your people, making sure the right folks are on the right tasks without burning them out.
A really powerful capability. It makes you wonder, how do you get that clear overall view of your team's workload right now? Is it easy? Is it insightful?
Good questions to ponder.
Here's a final thought. Considering your own work management processes, what specific areas, what challenges could benefit the most from a more integrated, more strategic platform like this?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.